pop culture podcast where we laugh our way through this week's trending topics. I am your host, Saron. How are you all? I am doing pretty well. I'm very excited about this episode. We have a lot to discuss, pop culture wise. Personally, I'm really starting to understand the trope of the spinster cat lady, because getting these two cats was the worst thing that ever happened to my social life. Because I don't know if I found the secret to life and happiness, but I'm pretty sure it's one dog, two cats, and a frothy, dirty martini. I'm becoming a little worried about how okay I am being alone. I think about this quite frequently. And it's am I depressed? And yes, obviously, since the ripe old age of 13, okay? My Lexapro prescription is tried and true, all right? As well as my Wellbutrin. So it's not the depression. That's pretty much under control with my cocktail, both the Belvedere variety and the Wellbutrin Lexapro variety. Not together, though. Not together. Never together. Ever. But I don't think it's because I have an antisocial personality, because when I do go out and about, I'm a fucking social butterfly. Like, even without the beta blockers, like I can genuinely have a good time when I'm amongst the people, when I tell myself to. But if I'm just someone who values my alone time, I don't like the feeling of being observed. Because not to say I don't feel like I'm being myself, because frankly, I do feel like I'm always being myself. My personality doesn't really change according to my audience or whether or not I have an audience. But I am aware that I'm being perceived. And that alone is enough to make me a little bit uncomfortable. And at this point in my life, I don't ever want to be uncomfortable. If I can help it, especially in a situation that's supposed to be like fully pleasurable, like a party, for instance. I don't mind being uncomfortable in work or creative endeavors, because that's really the only way that you grow. If you are constantly pushing your boundaries or going outside of your comfort zone, that's the only way you produce anything really of value. But when it comes to things that are just supposed to purely be fun, I'm not about staying uncomfortable. And at this age, there's just nothing that Beatrice, Archibald, Henry, and Belvedere can't handle. It's not just one little soul that's waiting for me. It's three fluffy, adorable creatures that just loves me and leave me the fuck alone if I need to be left alone. And yeah, I thought it might be depression, and I don't think it is. I think it's really just my personality. I am an introvert, and I had a hard time really stomaching that, or I don't know, believing that before, because like I said, when I'm in a social situation, I can turn it on and I'll be fine. But especially as I've gotten older, when I was younger, was so deeply uncomfortable in social situations, actually. And I would overdrink to compensate for that discomfort. Luckily, that's something that post-frontal lobe formation has relaxed. Very much so, I'd like to say. So like I said, before I got my cats, I could guilt myself into acting my age and socializing amongst my peers. But now that I have these three, there are three of them, it's just so much harder to get me out the door. And I know this is my year of yes. You need to leave your house in order for good things to happen to you. Honestly, though, do you? Really? Because I've made quite a lot of fantastic things happen from this 570 square foot estate. I've done a lot here. I had never spent any kind of meaningful amount of time with a cat prior to acquiring my cats. And it really changes you. The experience of having a cat is not the same as interacting with ones that are not yours. You cannot you can't really love a cat. I don't think it's not yours, because they don't fuck with you. But then now I have these two cats that are just like putty in my hands. I can do whatever I want with them. There's nothing scary about them at all. Generally, I used to think that I don't really trust cats because I feel like they're always stalking you. They pounce, like they think you're prey. But that's just them playing, apparently. Who knew? Who knew? There wasn't evil in their little souls. All that to say, there's nothing wrong with being a cat lady. I think that we need to take back the cat lady stereotype. We need to take back the trope because it's nice over here. They had to make it a negative thing because if people realized that cat ladies were so fucking content, then we'd all want to do it. As if I need a man to make any of this better. In fact, now I fear every time I scroll through my dating apps, I'm afraid. I think you could fuck this up. This might be the happiest I've been in my life. And when I'm sitting there with my fluffy creatures surrounding me, watching an episode of Summer House with Belvedere in my hand, nothing but myself to worry about. No one to answer to. No one judging me. No one perceiving me. Ugh. This man will have to be incredible. You get so much conflicting advice about dating when you're single. It's like, some are like, you have to date intentionally in order to really find your person. You can't just be fucking winging it. And some are like, oh, you have to be completely content in yourself and not even thinking about it. And that's when the person will find you. And I think that's all bullshit. It's all a crapshoot. My last relationship, I met him at a bar. And I think that's exceedingly rare nowadays. I don't think that there's anything wrong with online dating, and I've done it plenty. It's not my ideal method, but I shall do it. And I don't know, you just can't query for the things that I would like to query for. I need recommendations. If I am going to be on a dating app, which one should it be? Give me the top 2 that I should be on, all right? Is it Hinge and Bumble? Should I try Raya? I don't know. I just need to focus my efforts on a couple of apps because it is fucking overwhelming, guys. I haven't been on a date since that date week that I did 2 in 1 week, and I think I overdid it. I exhausted myself. The alternative being a spinster cat lady. Whatever. One of my favorite shows ever is Golden Girls, right? I'm down to live with a couple of my girly pops and just make it work. I won't be the Blanche. You have to be Blanche from the jump. You can't become Blanche. Blanche has been Blanche for forever. I'm not Dorothy either. I'm certainly not Sophia. I'm Sophia, right? And I don't think I need to explain. I do not need to explain why. But speaking of shows, let's get into our pop culture bullshit for the day. I must discuss White Lotus with you guys. The finale happened this weekend. I did not watch the finale on the night that it came out. I actually watched it on Tuesday, and I'm so proud of myself for not having it spoiled. Do you know how hard that was? It was like walking through a minefield. Every time I opened my social media, I'd have to peek through my hand. And eventually I just gave up and I was like, I'm not posting anything until I watch. And I watched, and I have to say, there's been a lot of criticism of this season of White Lotus, but I think it was the best. It's my favorite so far out of all of them. And I don't know what that says about me. Perhaps I'm fucked, but I was really enthralled the entire time. It very much caught my attention. But I did only watch it week by week for the first 3 episodes. And then I stopped watching until I had banked the last 5, including the season finale. So I was able to binge those and watch them back to back. And I think that does change the experience because a lot of people were complaining that it felt slow. Not enough happens in every episode. We end on cliffhangers and no episode is fully satisfying. But and maybe I can understand that when you're waiting week by week because you're waiting longer for the payoff and it feels more drawn out and your expectations are heightened because you've built up, okay, oh, this next episode is going to provide this or explain this or give us more juice. And that only leaves you, at least the way that Mike White does it, inevitably being a little bit disappointed. But when you watch them back to back, you don't really experience that. The cliffhangers feel like natural and you're not really left wanting. I'm so glad that I saved those last 5 episodes and watched them in a, like binging versus watching them week by week. I think that is absolutely the way to do it. And I'm going to do it for all the episodes for next season. But I do have predictions for next season. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the episode. So I put an episode out. I put a TikTok out that said I wanted Lachlan to die. Okay. And I wanted Lachlan to die because of what happened between him and his brother, Saxon. I was like, of course, one of you has to die. Of course, one of you cannot return to your normal lives. Of course, you can't just look at him over Thanksgiving dinner, ask him to fucking pass the cranberries, knowing what happened on that boat. Okay? Oh my God. One of them had to have died. I was so sure, and I really did not care which one it was. But season 3 of White Lotus features the Ratliff family. Victoria and Tim are the parents, I think, and then Piper, the daughter, Lachlan and Saxon, the 2 sons. And Lachlan and Saxon hook up. Lachlan is the youngest son, the baby of the family, and he gives his brother Saxon a handy whilst he's in the middle of sleeping with this girl named Chloe. I screamed the entire time. Like, literally, I screamed for 30 seconds straight. High octave, first soprano, just screamed because Mike White is insane. He's disturbed, but I love his freakish little brain. He does good work. I don't even know how you conceive of this. I read somewhere that Patrick Schwarzenegger had said that people were cast, and then when they found out about the incest stuff, they backed out, because I almost backed out of watching the show because of the incest stuff, because it really just turns my stomach. And I was called a little bitch. Why was everyone perfectly fine when it was Cersei and Jaime Lannister? But this, when it's 2 guys, people are grossed out. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't think it has to do, because I was grossed out by Jaime and Cersei, but my reaction certainly was not as visceral as watching these 2 boys. And it's certainly not because they're 2 boys. I think it's because of the time difference and the fact that the type of shows that they are. White Lotus is set in present day. While this is somewhat of a fantastical fictional story, it is still far more realistic and based in far more reality than Game of Thrones is. So I think you can suspend your feelings and your judgments a bit more when it comes to the fantasy genre versus watching a Mike White production, where you're looking at people who could be like living down the street from you do some crazy ass gross shit. So I think it's more of a timeline issue versus a gender or sexuality, hetero versus homo type thing. Mike White is a gay man. Anything else? Spoiler alert. All right, you got to go at this point if you haven't watched the finale yet. But I did not expect Chelsea to die. I didn't. I was fully prepared for them to walk away into the sunset. But what I was so fucking confused about is, why would Rick go back to the White Lotus? Why did you not just tell her, you need to check out, meet me at this other 5-star overpriced hotel in Thailand, and let's finish our holiday there, not at the hotel of a man that I just fucking threatened, who I tipped over, fucking Humpty Dumpty. Oh my God. And that woman who was the healer lady, who didn't make herself available to Rick when he needed to talk to her. Not that it was her fault or anything, because I fully believe, obviously, it's all on him. Murder, that's fully in your hand. That's a him problem. That's not a her problem. But it's infuriating to think that Zion, Belinda's son, really didn't give a fuck about whether or not he had that treatment or that session with the healer woman. He was so indifferent about it. He could have taken it or left it. If she had just been like, if she had said, I need to pause and go with this man, he's having a breakdown, I don't think he would have given a fuck. But also, I understand the policy at the White Lotus at spas, high-end spas like that, is obviously you cannot last minute cancel on a client under any circumstance, minus a mass shooting. So I can not believe that Chelsea died, but I am glad that she got her donut before she did. I am so attracted to Rick. We got to start there. I am so deeply attracted to that man, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like the tortured, I can fix you, but I'm not really into fixing a man, as you guys probably know by now. I'm looking for something turnkey. I'm not looking for a project ever. I like my men to come healed and sorted. I don't need you staged or anything like that. Like, I can style you myself. We can landscape together. But just in general, overall, I'm going to need the house to be inspected, tip-top shape, figured out before I enter the picture. Obviously, that is not the case with Rick. And Chelsea herself, her sweet soul, said that she essentially loves the project and he's tortured and blah, blah, blah. There's just, I think it's that I've said before that I am attracted to the Rottweiler boyfriend. I like a serious man. I like a man who, in a suit, I would love to be your one and only light, the one and only light in your life. I am a delight. You love me. You adore our children. You live for our little family. Like, fuck everyone else. Obviously, you must have friends and your own interest and be able to entertain yourself. See me being someone who very much loves her alone time. You got to be able to figure your own shit out. But I like a serious fellow. And he is certainly a serious guy. I could do without the severe mental illness, but just generally, I don't know, the aesthetics. I like the way he dresses. I like the way he moves. I like the whiskey. I like the mystery. I like his body. But turns out he and Chelsea have unfollowed each other on Instagram. I was hoping that they would stay together forever as friends. Like, the way that they described what happened on that island when they were filming, it sounded like camp. Like, they were living there together for 6 months, I think. They were all being paid the same. It sounds like there was very little ego. And from the way everyone described it, it felt like they became a real family. And there was just as much drama on screen, minus the murder, as there was on screen. I don't know if I believe that much but it would just be so sad to me if Rick and Chelsea did not continue their friendship IRL, let alone fucking hated each other. But I'm sure we'll find out sooner or later what that is about. And they all were paid the same. They were from Piper Posey to Lachlan, were all paid $350,000, which was not what I expected for 6 months' work, but it's worth it to be a part of something that has such a huge following and is like such a cultural moment and so deeply part of the zeitgeist. I imagine it does wonderful things for your career. So I see what the pull would be for a Parker Posey whose resume certainly calls for more than $350,000 for 6 months of work. Let's talk about our favorite characters. I think out of the 3 women who were on their little trip, Lori was my favorite, followed by Kate the Republican, and then Jacqueline. I don't know what it is about Jacqueline that is somewhat triggering to me. I know that when you're triggered by someone, it's because you see something in them that reminds you of yourself that you don't like. And I have a feeling that is the case with me here. I haven't pinpointed what it is yet. I guess I'll talk to my therapist about it and then I shall report back. But my God, I was just like, you are potentially a really bad person. It's not the cheating, though. I got the cheating out of my system pre-frontal lobe formation. The last time I cheated on someone, I was 18. And then I wasn't in a relationship for a very long time. I just made the thoughtful choice to not be in a relationship until I could be certain that I wouldn't cheat on someone. And I actually found it scary. Last relationship that lasted 8 years. I remember starting it and actually being afraid, like thinking to myself, when I went out in any situation that involved alcohol, I was like, oh my God, what if I cheat on him? What if I inadvertently forget that he exists and that I'm in a relationship and cheat on him? Turns out cheating on someone on accident isn't a thing. There's no amount of drunk that you can get to forget that you are in a relationship. And frankly, in those early stages, you're so obsessed, or you should be, with that person, that the only person that you're talking to that you shouldn't be, at least for me, was that person. I think that there's something in Jacqueline that really rubs me the wrong way. Not that there was anything like overtly terrible about all of them. It's just that relationship was so triggering. I think for any woman who has a group of friends, like we all know every like one of them. And of course, Lori was my favorite because she was the fucking realest of them all. She was over from the moment she started throwing back her Chardonnay, literally chugging half of the bottle of Chardonnay in one go. From the moment they stepped foot onto that resort to her final speech where she talks about loving everyone where they're at and appreciating your friends, flaws and all, because just being grateful to be a part of the larger story. It actually made me take a step back and wonder, am I too puritanical in my friendships? Do I expect too much of people? Because I have strong and hard rules about like at least talking shit. If I find out that you were talking shit about me, I will never speak to you again. And not that I will hold a grudge. Perhaps it is holding the grudge that I maybe if you're someone that I barely know, if you're an acquaintance and I hear that you're talking shit about me, I will not care or find that mildly amusing. But if you're someone that I hold close and I hear you say that you have said lies or horrible shit about me, or you're just my perspective on our relationship is very different than what our relationship actually is. And this person knows that. That feels like such a giant betrayal. I've ended friendships over that because I just don't trust what you're saying to me about how you feel about me. I don't understand when people spend time with people that they don't like or spend time with people that they complain about constantly or actually believe negative things about for a long time. So it makes me like, why would you want to be friends with me if you actually feel these things about me, let alone are telling this to other people as if it's fact. But these women, they didn't necessarily treat each other horribly. They just talk shit about each other behind one another's backs and weren't being fully honest with each other. And there was so many things that weren't said. And there were so many like veiled, passive aggressive. I don't understand passive aggressive. I don't do passive aggressive. I do passive. I do aggressive separately, very separately. I'm usually passive. I feel like I'm 80% passive, 20% aggressive. But you're just never going to get what you want out of me with that approach because I don't accept that as a communication form. You might as well be speaking a different language. I'm not going to respond to that because we all know that it's not a healthy way to communicate. So you communicate with me in a direct and respectful manner, or I'm going to continue on in my merry way until you get so infuriated that you have no choice but to directly address it like an adult. Lori is one of those head-on kind of bitches. She did for a bit like talk shit about Jacqueline, but mostly she addressed her qualms as they happened in the moment. She, especially after we found out that Jacqueline hooked up with Alexei, I think that was his name, a handsome Russian number one who worked at the one who worked at the spa. So when she found out that she hooked up with, the Jacqueline had hooked up with their butler at the spa, all pretense went away and Lori succumbed to her feelings and decided everyone was going to know and she was going to live her truest life. And I also think the part where Jacqueline said, if you're always pulling the short straw, how much of that is the universe and how much of that is you, essentially. I respected that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's something that can resonate with a lot of people. And I would see how that could resonate with Lori's character. Kate was filler. I understand she's supposed to be like the Gretchen Wieners of the situation. I don't know any people like this because all of the Republicans that I've experienced in my life have been like very clear, very staunch, very I'm a Republican. You're never going to have any questions about that, my political leanings. And then there are the Democrats who have always been very Democrat-y. I don't have any friends that are conservative, and I would be completely shocked to find out if any of my, I work in liberal politics. Okay. I'm a Democrat card carrying. I live in DC. We voted 93% blue, I think. I'm very much in a blue vacuum. I'm in an echo chamber here. And at this point in time, I don't give a fuck. I'm enjoying my echo chamber and I will continue to relax. I tried my best in November and it didn't work. So I'm just going to chill at this point. The other members of the 92%, I recommend you continue doing that too. But I don't have any Kates in my life. Maybe that's why I didn't find her as infuriating as I found Jacqueline. There's something. She voted for Trump, though. I still dislike Jacqueline more. Anyway, and Lori's my girl. I could have a drink with Lori. We could have a fucking good time together. And I think she just represents so many women. The moments that kind of fucking ate away at me were especially in the beginning when everybody was introduced and the girls were talking to each other. What work have you had done? Tell me about your doctor. You look great. No, you look great. And this was just Kate and Jacqueline talking to each other, and nobody looked at Lori until the end of this back and forth. Going, oh, you look good too. Are you guys fucking crazy? That's motherfucking insane. That's absolutely insane. But it was hilarious that they said, oh, no, I haven't done anything big, just the basics. Just a little Botox here and filler there. Also, guys, don't get filler ever. Please. Ever. Promise me, pinky swear right now. That and petroleum candles. We're not doing anymore. Because the migration, insane. The expansion, batshit motherfucking crazy. All right? Get yourself a red light therapy mask, put on your sunscreen, and call it a fucking day. And if you're feeling extremely motivated, get yourself some retinol. That's all you gotta do. Stay out of the sun, a little retinol, sunscreen, and wash your face. But Botox, keep doing what you're doing. I've never had it before, and I understand. There is no filter on me at this moment. I don't really have many wrinkles, but that is because black don't crack. And I wear sunscreen religiously every single day. 100% mineral, no chemical filters, SPF. And I think that really does attribute to why I haven't really wrinkled that much other than being black. What else? And also, all of the three of them look incredible. They're all bad bitches. The implication that Lori was somehow the frumpy dumpy one. No. Did you see her body in that last episode with her and the wrestler who tried to Nigerian prince her at the end after they hooked up? I would be so fucking pissed off. If I was trying to have my footloose, fancy-free holiday fuck and just at the end, after the pinnacle of pleasure, I get hit up for $10K, and then some bitch barges in and slaps me in the head after I throw myself out of a window. No, that I would be pissed. I thought she might have died after that interaction. But no, Chekhov's gun was very much a thing with the season of The White Lotus. Literally, when it came to the gun that Guycock had, I knew the second it was introduced, there's no way that it wasn't going to be used at some point. And it was used in the final few minutes. So I was waiting for that to happen. And also with the fruit, right? The second that on the first episode, within the first 5 minutes of them being at the villa, Pam, their host, says that this fruit will kill you. The seeds will kill you. So that was a clear indication that was going to be some kind of important plot point at the end. I think that's something that you really have to pay attention to when you're looking at Mike White's work. He has a bunch of Easter eggs, and he won't introduce something that has a heavy implication if it's not going to be implemented. So if there's a poison, someone's going to be poisoned. If there's a gun, that specific gun shall shoot someone at some point. I thought that was just something to think about in future seasons. And speaking of future seasons, my prediction is now that Belinda's got her dollar bills, she and her fine-ass son Zion are going to go create their White Lotus, their spa. And that's where the next season of White Lotus will take place. And I do believe that since she did the exact same thing to Pornchai as Tanya did to her regarding the stringing her along about starting a spa with her or giving her the funding for the spa herself, and then just being a flighty rich person and being like, whatever, actually things have changed and I gotta go. She did that exact same thing to Pornchai, but she fucked him, which I'm pretty sure makes it worse. So I think that Belinda shall die in the next season in some terrible way. So I want to put that element out there. I want to say it so that it's on tape before the other hosts do, so I get credit. Or maybe Mike White will see this and he'll say, no, can't do it now because Saron hath already predicted it. Because that's how important I am, because I'm sure he listens to this. Any other predictions? Not a prediction, but just a fucking hope that Victoria comes back. I can't stop saying, Pepper, no. Pep. Every time one of my cats does something naughty, I just scream, Pepper, no. Tsunami. It's my favorite thing. When she was talking to that poor girl, one of the women that was dating the old bald man, she was like, does he have a lot of money? Oh, are you scared of him? I can get you out of this. Oh my God, it was so good. It was so good. I screamed. She's delightful. I hope she comes back. Like she said, she's not meant to struggle. So I don't know if she's staying with, I want to call him Tim Tom, but is his name Tim? I think Tim, the dad from Duke. I'm sure Duke really loved all of the scenes of the dad wearing a big Duke t-shirt, just contemplating all the ways he might murder his family or himself because of embezzlement and his white-collar crimes. I'm sure they really love that association. Oh, my God. This is dark, super dark, but Russel Brand has been charged with rape. And I saw this headline that said he was charged with rape 8 days before he was scheduled to speak at a university about cancel culture. And I doubt it was the benefits of accountability and taking a break from public life and the importance of really ruminating on the problem that got you in this predicament or your actions that got you in this predicament. No, it was probably about the terrors of cancel culture and how the society, it's a bad thing that society cancels people. I've never known a decent person to harp on cancel culture. I don't know a decent person who just is constantly bemoaning cancel culture. Like, I'm going to get canceled for this, or cancel culture is out of control. Nah. Cancellation, I don't really even think is real. It's a fucking state of mind. At the end of the day, you will always have your core fans that will love you through thick and thin. The scale of your popularity can aggressively decrease, but as long as you wait it out, you can generally survive much of anything if you stay quiet for long enough, give an apology, and try and do better. It's the taking accountability for your actions part that is incredibly important. I like to use Stassi Schroeder as an example of this because I think she's a fucking incredible example of someone who took accountability. If you don't recall, she was canceled in 2020 for an interview she did with the Bitch Bible. Jackie Schimmel was resurfaced where she told a story about how she and Kristen called the police, LA police tip line to report that this black woman that worked with them, Faith, had stolen a jacket from James Kennedy because they saw a picture of a woman wearing a similar jacket that looked like Faith. Turns out it wasn't Faith. It was just another Black woman. It wasn't James's jacket. And the internet was rightly very upset that she put this Black woman's lives in danger based on absolutely nothing. And was the action itself was racist. It was not the first time that she got in trouble for saying racially insensitive things. I remember she said something about, why do people have to talk about race in their acceptance speeches? Like, I don't want to hear about anyways. After she was canceled for the Faith incident, calling the police on Faith, she disappeared for 2 years. 2 whole years, dude. She hired someone to teach her about Black history because she realized that she was like woefully ignorant on the subject, even as someone who grew up in New Orleans with a bustling Black community, bustling diverse Black community. She didn't know anything about anything, she said. So she took 2 years away from her podcast. For everything was actually taken from her. All of her sponsorships, her brand deals, her job on Vanderpump Rules, she was kicked off of. Same with Kristen. Kristen had a lot less to lose because she was a lot less successful. And Stassi, after she took that time, she returned first with a podcast behind a paywall on Patreon with her husband, Beau, called The Good, the Bad, Baby. And it was very clear that she had reflected on where she went wrong, addressed why what she did was wrong, and has every time I've heard her podcast and speak since then, I listened to her Patreon, I listened to her podcast, she has truly embodied those changes. She is not an ignorant bitch anymore. She doesn't say things that make me go, oh my God. She addresses where she was lacking when it comes to empathy, her just knowledge, curiosity even before, and her immaturity. She'll be the first one to say. And I think that I respect that so deeply. This is Kristen Doty route, okay? Forever 21 personified. Oh my God. Who called her Birkenstocks and a shift dress? As she's just Birkenstocks and a shift dress. The route that she took with her cancellation was doubling down and saying, we didn't even call the police. It was a tip line. It was a tip line. And then she has the audacity, like first episode of The Valley, because she now has a show herself where she is a part of this ensemble cast where she is the lead and she's recovered and whatnot. Herself, again, there was a lot less ground to cover because she had far less space to fall. So she continues to, so in the first episode or the second episode of The Valley, she implies that Michelle is racist or one of her castmates is racist or a Trump supporter, etc., or homophobic. Racism came up. In one of the first episodes of The Valley, Kristen accuses Michelle, one of her castmates, of being a racist or something along those lines, which is so fucking laughable considering why she was canceled and how she still to this day does not take accountability for the harm that she could have done to this woman and like the ignorance behind her action. And for that, I shall never, ever respect that bitch. All you have to do is address the bullshit. All you have to do is take accountability for something. It's not that hard. Apologizing and just admitting that you fucked up is always the easier option than digging your fucking heels in when you know you're dead motherfucking wrong. When everybody is telling you're dead, lie the fuck down. But yes, joke's on me though, because she didn't lie down and she's still on a show. She's right back to where she was. And now she's pregnant and engaged. So la-di-da. Anyways, we were originally talking about Russell Brand. And I would also like to say Russell Brand being charged with rape or sexual assault, allegedly, I don't know, doesn't surprise me. because he went from being this super hedonistic, free spirit, free to be you and me, rock and roll lifestyle, sex, drugs, rock and roll guy, to being Mr. Hippie, Dippy, Zen, just like this ultimate cliche, crunchy man. And like green juices and over therapized or whatever. Actually, when I went to, after my wedding was canceled, sharp left, I went to a rehabilitation center and like therapy center. There were 3 tracks really. It was one if you were just doing the therapy, one if you were like an alcoholic, and one if you had other substance abuse issues. I decided I wasn't going to spiral out of control and ruin my life because of this trauma. I was just going to send myself to a ski town in Vail and get massages until I felt better. And alas, that is what happened. That and all of the day to night therapy, equine therapy, sound baths, Reiki, all that stuff. Anyways, so during one of the group sessions, this woman liked to play these self-help therapy things that Russell Brand had recorded. I don't know if they were excerpts from his book that he had not only audio recorded, but had video recorded, but of him like being super duper motivational and saying a bunch of cliches like we never heard it before in his life, just being a long-haired hippie, overly saccharine, thinks far too much of himself, feels like he has rediscovered the meaning to life, obviously is running from something deep and dark type bullshit. And that was something that I remember turning me off because I just don't buy people who go to extremes. The choice to go from one extreme way of life to another extreme way of life, to have this kind of revelatory moments that require you to make drastic change, spiritual change, I find that deeply unsettling. I don't like it. And I don't find it sincere. I think, like I said, the majority of life doesn't exist in extremes. There's so much in the middle. And I think that's the beauty of humanity, all of the mess in the middle. And being a decent human being does not require you to have a strict written credo. You have a conscience, you have a gut, you have a soul, and that oftentimes can be your guide. Can you be a moral person without believing in God? And my response to that is actually is obviously yes. Obviously, you can be a moral person without religion. Oftentimes, I find the most moral people are religious. So much harm, so much violence, so much sin has been done in the name of God over the span of humanity that it's silly to think that religion would be the thing that delineates an amoral person from a moral person. That absolutely just logically does not make any sense. And I found myself that my conscience has always been the best guide. To be forthright and to follow your conscience, it took me a long time to learn it, but that's generally what will lead you to the most contentment, the most peace. And isn't that all what we're looking for? So when people oscillate between extremes, I find that to be an indication of something that's wrong. If you don't net out at moderation, then that's always going to be a problem. And he wasn't giving moderation. He was giving, I have joined a cult. I live on a commune. Come join me. I have found the way to life. Put on your white gown, put on those sneakers, drink the Kool-Aid, and joineth me. And I selected this treatment center specifically because it wasn't given any of that bougie. It wasn't given any of that crunchy nonsense. It was giving bougie. I wanted a bougie therapeutic experience. I did not want Russell Brand screaming at me about the pillars of life that one must follow in order to blah, blah, blah. Literally, you're running from something. People who are often having revelations are running from something. People who are proclaiming these grand life changes are hiding from something. And I don't trust them. And I know that is an extreme stance in and of itself, but alas, we're all a little hypocritical, aren't we? Russell Brand, hope you rot in jail. I know he's innocent until proven guilty, but I'm putting my money on the guilty. I think he was charged allegedly 2 counts of rape. There is that. It's just so gross. Does he have any children? Thank God he didn't have any children with Katy Perry. I don't even really like Katy Perry. I find her to be terribly mediocre, but that is besides the point, Saron. I think that's enough of the Russel brand talk. The Next Gen NYC trailer has come out and it looks intriguing. There's something Laguna Beach-esque about it to me. I don't know if it's because they're in their early 20s. Laguna Beach wasn't where high schoolers, so it is different. But they're just so young and they feel like babies. And I can't imagine they have any real drama or strife in their life. It should be called the Nepo Babies of Bravo. I'm pretty sure in one of the promos I saw someone say, oh, and then the check was $14,000. What check for what dinner? Where were you? What were you doing that could have possibly cost you $14,000 and who paid for it? You're 20 and you've never worked a day in your life. What the fuck are you talking about? It might be interesting. It's like a cross between Laguna Beach and, oh my God, the show NYC Prep. If you guys recall, that shit was so good. It was a Bravo show that covered the lives of these rich-ish teenagers and this one public school girl and their interactions and like the social hierarchies and whatever. I think there was only one season. It was trying to give Gossip Girl Bravo edition. They were trying to do, you know how Real Housewives of Orange County was the first franchise? That was just when the Desperate Housewives had popped off and the OC had popped off. So Bravo was able to leverage the excitement about these two shows and create a reality television show that launched 1,000 franchises. And I believe they tried to redo that formula with NYC Prep and Gossip Girl. I think because the audience would have to have been teenagers or fairly young people who would have been invested in these high schoolers' lives. Like me, I was a child. I was their age at that time and I watched it, but I don't think that was the majority of their audience. The Bravo peeps at that point were very much older. Shows like Vanderpump Rules and even Summer House Southern Charm have been introduced. But back in the day, it was giving daytime TV, same audience. But NYC Prep, why were we talking? Oh, and Next Gen. Candy Burris' daughter is on it, as well as Teresa's daughter, and I think Ariel Bierman, which is Kim's daughter. And then a bunch of unknown people. And I'm talking about people with 200, 300 followers. So this is really their entree into public life. I wish them the absolute best of luck. They're all very young. I'm sure this is going to be a huge launching pad for them. That's exciting, but I don't know. I will watch. I hope oh my God, Brooks Marks is on it. Right. This is why. This is part of my, Brooks, there's just something about Brooks Marks that I find irritating. And that's really that on that. I can't really put my finger on it. And he's always been too young for me to have an opinion about him, but I believe he is an adult now, technically. And I can say that I do find him a bit annoying. There's something just shut up about him. But maybe I'll watch this and eat my words. I doubt it, but we shall see. Meredith and Seth also were in a bunch of the promos, so I'm sure we'll be seeing their relationship. The relationship between the Brooks and his parents play out on screen. And it should be interesting. It could go either way. It could really go either way, and I wish them all the best of luck. Speaking of Bravo, though, Brittany Cartwright has just announced that she got a diagnosis of autism for her son Cruz about 6 months ago. And today she has come out publicly saying, I know there's been a lot of speculation because he wasn't talking and people noticed that. And I want to confirm that he is mostly nonverbal. He could say a lot of words before, but he's regressed around the 2-year mark. And now we have more answers about why that might be. And he's actually getting the help he needs, et cetera, after his diagnosis. Now that they know what's going on, they can move forward and helping him lead his best life possible. And I'm sure he is going to thrive. She said she is here to be his mouthpiece. You can say whatever the fuck you want about Brittany. She's a good mom. know she loves that child. I know she's going to do right by that child. I'm excited for her to have clarity and understanding about what's going on. Because I can't imagine having a kid and being concerned about something developmentally and having the entire world chime in and trying to do your best without a diagnosis is really hard. So a bunch of outlets pick up that Brittany has announced that Cruz has an autism diagnosis, and their comments are just chock full of these bitches being like, it's about the vaccine. It's definitely because he got vaccinated. It's because of that jab. Oh, definitely shouldn't have vaccinated him. Shut the fuck up. What is wrong with you? The fact that you people are allowed to have children and all of the pictures were women with children. It's insane. The fact that I call it eugenics, whatever, you shouldn't be allowed to have children. And if your child dies from a preventable disease because you chose to not get him vaccinated against all professional medical opinion and expertise, you should go to jail and you should have all of your children taken away from you and you should be barred from having children for the rest of your life. Full stop, period. Okay? And this is why it fucking pays to, when you're building a platform, to incorporate who you are in that platform, regardless of your niche, because I don't want it to ever be confused. Don't get it fucking twisted. If you are an anti-vaxxer, I don't want you here. I don't want your views. I don't want your clicks. I don't want your likes. I don't want your opinions. I don't want you. All right? I want nothing to do with you. I prefer you didn't exist. Frankly, fucking idiots. Are you joking? This woman is literally just trying to figure out how to best take care of her son. And you, the kookadoodle motherfucking dudes that you are, think now is the time to shove conspiracy theories down her throat because you know she's reading the comments. If your child dies from a preventable disease because you chose to not have them vaccinated against professional recommendations, you should go to jail. And that's that on that, okay? If your child dies because you choose to believe that you know better than every medical professional in the world, and your child dies because you're a dumb fuck, you should be in jail and you should be barred from having any more children. You shouldn't be allowed. You can't risk passing on that kind of stupid. Jax is still the fucking worst. I'm sure he loves his son, no doubt about it, but he's a cokehead. So that's that on that. After he became a father, and he's a raging psychopath. And I've seen the trailers for this season of The Valley, and you see that part about the cameras. She realized that he was watching her remotely via the cameras in their house, and she wasn't aware. And then she talks about him finding out that she was like texting and sexy text to some guy while they were separated. And he flipped a table, it hit her on her knee and bruised her, and she was really scared. That is not a man that you want your child around, especially your child that has more needs. It's not someone that you can trust. It's not someone that you can rely upon. It's not someone you want to be an example to your child. So that's a cross to bear in and of itself. And I don't want to, now is not the time to layer on and be like, you knew who this man was. I will always feel that way. He hated her from the beginning. He literally said it when he was laying on that bed with Faith. And yet she did marry him. The vision was very clear even back then. She was wearing prescription lenses, and yet she still married him and procreated with him. But she does have Cruz, and that's a silver lining. Yes, and they are getting divorced, and that's exciting. Oh my God, this is a whole new day for her. She is soon to be rid of the barnacle that is Jax, at least legally, and she now has this diagnosis for her son that she can use to move forward and get him the help that he needs. So I am very happy for him. I doubt this is going to play out on The Valley. It might. Actually, I hope it doesn't too much. I find it very weird when children are the subject of media that they can't consent to. Like, I understand being open about his autism is important and helpful, not only for mothers, but also children. But the amount of exposure you give him specifically, or the amount you expose him as a little person to the world, those things are intimate and personal. And I just think that can get out of hand rather quickly. Not to mention the financial aspect of things, right? Like, if his autism is part of a storyline, I believe he should be getting paid for that, especially if he's featured physically and not just discussed in the show. Even if he is discussed, I think that perhaps there should be some kind of financial reward to that as well, because it is your life that's being leveraged for financial gain, and you should gain from that, especially as a child. So we shall see. All the love to them and Cruzy. No love to Jax. No love to Jax, whatever. Fuck that guy. And that is it for today. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Saron Things. I had so much fun. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and it would mean the world to me if you guys would leave a review. It helps so much on Apple iTunes. It's very useful. So please, if you wouldn't mind giving me a 5-star review and a little comment, I would very much appreciate it. I love you guys. You can catch me on Instagram and TikTok under Saron Things as well. So until next week, guys, toodaloo.